Hello everyone, today we will be doing questions 23 through 27 on Module 2 of the Math section of Digital SAT Practice Test number 1. So for question 23, we have what is the diameter of the circle in the xy plane with equation x minus 5 whole squared plus y minus 3 whole squared equals 16. So we only want to focus on this part right here, which is equal to r squared. So if r squared is equal to 16 and r is equal to 4, then we have that 2r, which is equal to the diameter, is equal to 8. So that gets us option B. For question 24, we have for the exponential function f, the value of f of 1 is k, where k is a constant. Which of the following equivalent forms of the function f shows the value of k as the coefficient or the base? So if we want k as our coefficient, then we want the rest of the expression to cancel out when we plug in x equals 1. So if we plugged in x equals 1, we have 50 times 1.6 squared, so that doesn't cancel out. 80 times 1.6 to the first, that doesn't cancel out. 128 times 1.6 to the 0th, because 1 minus 1 is 0. Well, 1.6 to the 0th is 1, so that does cancel out and leaves us with our coefficient of 128. So we know that's our answer. And then you could also check the last option, 204.8 times 1.6 to the 1 minus 2, well, that doesn't cancel out. So we know our option is C. Number 25, model estimates that at the end of each year from 2015 to 2020, the number of squirrels in a population was 150% more than the number of squirrels in the population at the end of the previous year. The model estimates that at the end of 2016, there were 180 squirrels in the population. Which of the following equations represents this model where n is the estimated number of squirrels in the population t years after the end of 2015? So we know that when t equals 0, that represents 2015. And then when t equals 1, we had that there were 180 squirrels. So we know that if t equals 0, the first coefficient right here should be less than 180 because they increased to 180, but they didn't start at 180. So that means we can cancel out options C and D. And then we're also given that in 2016, the population was 150% more. So if we have 150% more, and that's more than 100%, which is our starting point, we have that the population in 2016 was 250% of the population we had in 2015. And we know that in order to convert this from a percent to a regular number, we can divide by 100. So that means that the population in 2016 is 2.5 times as much as the population from 2015. So that means that our correct answer is option B. Moving on to question 26. In the given pair of equations, a and b are constants. The graph of this pair of equations in the xy plane is a pair of perpendicular lines. Which of the following pairs of equations also represents a pair of perpendicular lines? So this question is a little bit harder, so let's take the time to make sure it works correctly. So we have a pair of perpendicular lines. So first let's find that slope for each line. So let's say we have a line in the form ax plus by equals c. And we just want to find the slope of this line. So right now we can just say that c is 0 and ignore that constant because we're only focusing on the slope. So subtracting ax from both sides, we get that by is equal to negative ax, and that y is equal to negative a divided by b times x. That means that our slope is equal to negative a divided by b. So in this case, we have that the slope is negative 5/7. In this case, the slope is negative a over b. And if two lines are perpendicular, that means that the slope is the negative reciprocal. So that means that negative a over b is equal to 1 over the negative value of this, which is 1 over 5/7. So there's reciprocal of 5/7 is 7/5, which means that negative a over b is equal to 7/5. So we want to check all of our answer choices to see something that is the same as this equation here. So in this case, we have negative 10/7 from our first equation, and we have negative a divided by negative 2b, and that means the negatives cancel out. So in this case, we can already see that from our starting forms, we had -5/7 and negative a over b. In this case, we have negative of some number and then positive a over some multiple of b. So we know that a is not going to work because we know that a over b is already the wrong sign. So working with the second one, we have that -10/7 and then negative a over 2b. Well, we note here that we multiplied this first equation, the slope, by 2, and then we divided the slope of the second equation by 2. And we know that that's going to check out because when we take the reciprocal, multiplying by 2 for one slope should divide by 2 in the other, but we can also double check that. So the way we would do that is we set negative a over 2b equal to the negative reciprocal of this. So if you take negative, you get 10/7, and the reciprocal of 10/7 is 7/10. And if we multiply by 2 on both sides, we get that negative a over b is equal to 7/5. And that's the same equation that we had from our given equations. So we know that option B is correct. Now for number 27, the final question of this set. In the given equation, c is a constant. The equation has no real solutions if c is greater than n. What is the least possible value of n? So first, let's focus on the part of the question that should stand out to us, which is that there are no real solutions if c is greater than n. So we want to find some range of values of c such that there are no real solutions to this equation up here. And we know that if we have a quadratic, given the quadratic equation, x equals b squared, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a, where a is equal to 1 because the coefficient here, then b is equal to -34, coefficient here, well, c is equal to c. Then we want this b squared minus 4ac to be less than 0, because if it were greater than 0, we'd have 2 solutions. If it was equal to 0, we'd have 1 solution. But in this case, we want less than 0 because that means we have 0 real solutions. So if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, we can plug in our values here. So we have -34 squared minus 4 times 1 times c is less than 0. So then 34 squared minus 4c is less than 0. 34 squared is greater than 4c, and that means that c is greater than 34 squared over 4. And we note that this simulates the part of the equation where it says if c is greater than n, and we have c is greater than a number right here. So we know that n is just equal to 34 squared over 4. This is equal to c is greater than n. C is greater than n. And that, if you put that into your calculator, you get that n is equal to 289, which is your final answer. I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe.